Good morning.
Good morning.
I think we're probably up and recording now. Huh?
Looks green, so I'd say we're good
All right,
to go.
good to go. All right, Amy Bowles, school superintendent, is here to speak about some leases.
Okay, you want me to jump right in?
Go ahead.
Okay, so thank you for having me. Back in April, we were lucky to have 2 engineers from EMC come to a school board meeting to present a project that we have been examining for a number of months. This kind of came to fruition because EMC was who the school board enlisted through the RFQ process to do our school revolving renovation fund projects. And they were the ones that put together our applications that resulted in us being selected for those funds. As part of that process, they did an examination of all of our buildings to see what projects rose to the level for that application project. And in that, they knew that our facilities committee was also trying to find ways to get other building projects done that didn't qualify, that wouldn't completely hamper our local budget. So they came up with a proposal, and in research that I did across the state, and I'm going to skip some of this because they also provided an update on the revolving renovation fund project, but in talking to other superintendents across the state, this is the way a lot of school departments are now going to get facility upgrades done in a cost-effective way that doesn't completely hamper your school budget. So through their research, they did a complete analysis of all the school buildings, and they actually were able to get into Avery Lane as well to do an examination of that property. And they came up with what is called a Phase 1 project that they proposed for the school department. So the point of Phase 1 is to identify, by looking at our capital improvement plan, what are some of the most immediate needs that our facilities need, but do that coupled with savings so that the savings we ascertain, the efficiency rebates we receive, make the payment for the lease. So what you will see is the Phase 1 project proposal, and over time, as we do that, we'd like to move into a Phase 2. But for right now, what we'd like to show you is the scope of Phase 1. So as part of Phase 1, Ellsworth High School was looked at, and one of our biggest problems that we knew as part of our capital improvement project plan is that our boilers are antiquated and they're not efficient at all. So this Phase 1 project would look to remove the existing oil tank and replace and integrate an automation system with efficiency propane condensing boilers, which is what the recommendation is for Efficiency Maine. We would replace existing hot water circulation pumps with high efficient speed pumps, and that would also be integrated into a new automation system. All of our T8 fluorescent lighting would be replaced with high efficiency LED lighting. That also would include advanced controls that we would have proprietary ownership of. We would replace 2 failed air conditioning units with heat pumps. It would provide for another phase of window replacements that, as you know, were a massive safety issue this year when one of our staff members was injured. And it would do our next phase of the roof project that we had prepared at Ellsworth High School. And you could see these are the old boilers, and then these are the old hot water pumps, because these have not been looked at since Ellsworth High School was constructed.
When was that?
Oh, I knew as soon as I said it, someone was going to ask me. Was it the 80s or the 90s?
90s, yeah,
90s,
because it was
right?
after I graduated, which ages me. Oh, jeez.
I know. I'm like, I was in high school. So these are the old aging air conditioning units that are broken indoors and outdoors. And so they've already been able to get in. Part of what we've tried to do is have them develop this project with the understanding that the ultimate goal would be that the majority of this could be done this summer when students are not in session, so we can then start the savings immediately upon opening of the school year. At EEMS, this project also would replace another of the geothermal heat pumps that have failed. As you know, we've had significant issues with those. It would do our sixth grade wing roof repair, which is a phase of the roof that needed to be redone. And it would do the same thing with the lighting at EEMS. It would completely replace all the lights with LED. If we were to purchase Avery Lane, if that all goes through, one thing that was immediately noticed is it's very dark in there. Their lights are very dark. And so he made a recommendation that we do all LED lighting there as well, because we'll absorb significant electricity savings, he felt like, doing this there as well. So that is currently a part of the scope of the project. We would also, in phase one at HCTC, take out air conditioning units. The old-fashioned window units are currently sitting in windows in the office area, and put a heat pump in that spot, and then also do all LED lighting at HCTC to have efficiencies there. I'm gonna keep going. So they have worked with us and gone through the competitor bid project. And so what school departments are doing is what's called a TELP, a tax exempt lease purchase agreement. And so this company has done this across the state, like I said. 98% of school departments doing this have used this process and used the help. So by applying the energy savings that we will receive with the transition in LED lighting on all properties, as well as the transition of the boiler systems and the replacement of the air conditioning units, those measures alone and the rebates we'll receive from Efficiency Maine will actually offset the loan payment entirely, so that we don't have additions to our local budget. A TELP grant grants an entire first year of no payments, allowing the savings to accumulate in the first year before we make our first payment. The risk is all put on the bank within that first year, and this is very different than a bond process.
So the TELP grant is from a bank?
Yes, yes. The rates that we've looked at, the best one that we have found so far is through Bank of America. And the board, in their motion, when they did the approval, they said with an interest rate no higher than 4.9%, because that was the lowest we had received. So that we're not gonna go above that. So I don't know if you,
Tony made copies.
so on the first page, so what we did, what EMC worked with us and our finance team on was what's called the customer choice tool. So in addition to these projects on page one, we have like 20 other projects, right? Because everything from our capital plan can be put into this. And what you do is you figure out what would be the operational savings, what are the energy savings, and what rebates can we acquire through Efficiency Maine. So what you'll see on here is each project broken out. Then you'll see what the savings are in each category and what the project cost is. And then on the second page, you have to have like microscopic lens to see it. But on the second page, you can see what that net cash flow would look like based on different rates. And so at different points in times, you can put in, if you see at the top is the project savings over the course of the years, the project cost, the cash flow, and then the loan in the middle. And so essentially what we did is put different projects in to see for phase one what would come out at flat. And we were able to do it with all of these projects.
Everything you just discussed?
Yes. So on page one, the project builder, where it says list of measures, all of those projects had been in our original budget. And so what we did was take that 1.9 million out of the budget but we can still get this all done
Through the TELP.
through the TELP. And so our facilities committee approved this, and then the school board unanimously approved this. And so then the discrepancy was, we thought we were all set to move forward, but then there was does city council have to approve it? And if city council has to approve it, we are very worried if we wait until May 20th. Contractors are already signing agreements, and we have people lined up to do the summer work, but if they have to wait until approval of May 20th, we may lose the contractors that are gonna do the work. So what Tammy and I quickly this morning were looking at was, do we have to wait, do a public hearing, get an approval from the council? Or does charter and board policy allow for, and a TELP allow us to move forward at this time? So we thought regardless, it was important that at least finance committee knew about the project at a minimum.
You're not borrowing money.
Well,
Well,
you are.
We are, but the savings is what makes is what helps make the payment. And in the first year, you're not making any payments.
So the charter states, in the power and duties, the board will have all powers and duties prescribed for school boards by the general laws of the state of Maine, including the authority for and on behalf of the city of Ellsworth to sell and lease personal property and to lease real estate under their authority and control. My only concern that I have is when we're going out for additional bond borrowings, whether it be a TAN ban, it does affect our tax exempt status, which I think we're okay because this is tax exempt, but I think it would be a good idea to have a conversation with the bond counsel, Jim Safian.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so one thing, if you could send me this presentation.
Yes, I can
As
send
well as this and a copy, do you have any sort of like lease documents that are gonna be signed?
Yes, eventually.
Okay,
We-
that's fine, but if I can have a copy of that so
Okay.
that I can go ahead and send it over to Jim Safian to,
Yeah.
or somebody will send it over to Jim Safian.
So it's structured as a lease?
Tax exempt lease purchase.
Oh, TELP. It's not just a clever name.
Yeah.
Another acronym.
Gotcha. You show me.
We don't do TELPs all the time? Oh, man.
Yeah.
This is really tough.
Helpful. Oh, but it's a Friday and we're
jokes.
doing that this early. I like it.
Dad.
Oh, I got a good one for you.
I mean, this sounds awesome.
Yeah.
This is like,
Yeah, I just think it checked a couple of boxes for us. It moves us forward in a much more efficient way without completely blowing up our budget. Our facilities have to get upgraded.
Oh, yeah.
And the work at the high school is so long overdue. And so the opportunity with Efficiency Maine and the rebates they have right now for these lights and the heat pumps, we have to capitalize on it if we're gonna do it.
And we could, ping Safian on this, of course, but then, we have 2 budget workshops with our nonprofits kind of coming up, so probably not this next week one, but if we have to do the 10-day notice, we might not have to wait until May 20th, but if we get some answers.
Yeah, I think we definitely could probably squeeze something in. We'll have to talk to Michelle about it as well, once we get the answers from Jim.
Yep.
So, and put a public hearing together.
So Tammy, I'm sending you both attachments right now.
Okay, I'm gonna provide a copy of that with, because we're doing notes to the, or meeting minutes to the council, so I'll include that as well.
Absolutely.
And if they want more information, they can listen to it or watch the presentation.
Yes. And I'll talk to Carolyn and Amy and find out where they're at with EMC in terms of the lease agreement.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Amy.
Nothing like shock and awe first thing on a Friday.
I came in and I'm like, what are you doing here?
I was
And I was like,
"Aw."
not that I don't love to see your face, but
didn't we already pass your budget? Now what? Jeez.
I know, I'm so needy.
no, I love seeing you. I think it's great to come in and give the
Yes.
information
This is
to the
great.
finance committee and council, so.
Yeah, happy to.
So you're gonna call up with Jim?
Yeah, I'll probably wait till Tammy does this. Once you send out your kind of minutes piece, I'll probably just send that to Jim with the notes and CC you, Tony. I know we're already on the SRRF piece, which seems like we're in order there, but Tony got a great email out with Jim yesterday just to
okay.
finalize all those pieces. So he's already on the books for meeting minutes, hearings, what are in these things, and he can hopefully give us quick clarity on if TELP would also fall into that public hearing piece. And then
Yeah.
if it does, we'll do this special
Okay.
notice rodeo all over again, but I'll obviously ping Michelle and make sure she's, good on how we schedule that.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
excellent. You're all set.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Great. Quick programming note, Nate and I will probably coordinate going forward on some of these. We have a couple doubles in here, so I'll leave Nate to his things. I also wanted, I'll bet Ashley and Deb, having them here, they're great finance folks who prepare the warrant, working super hard. Patrick, I'm sure you've probably seen that they were able to get that kind of top line broken down by
Yeah,
departments.
Great.
So happy with that. It's been helpful to me. If there's edit changes, clarifications, I know a quick one on, it says like finance/administration on there, and there's a huge sort of how much is costing. That's really the entire administration. It's not just the finance department.
yeah.
So
I figured that out. There was city manager, or no, HR related stuff on there. I was like, oh.
yes.
So the reason why there's HR related stuff on there is because when we set Casella up, the GL accounts weren't broken out per department. So when we enter stuff into Casella versus Munis, we now have to pick an actual department, and those GL codes should be tied to that department category, and none of human resources GL codes got tied to Carrie's
Yeah,
department. So those were all just going to finance, because finance actually has the capability to look at all GL codes versus like facilities looking at human resources GL codes. So that's why those were coded to finance, and Nate and I actually met with Carrie last week. And we discussed her GL codes and what she needed, and we're working on getting those assigned to her. So that's why you could see some broken out to finance and some broken out to human resources, because those were entered prior to meeting with Carrie.
Okay.
Just.
And do you guys want to come up to the table? So, because I'm not sure how well that's going to pick up, or do you think that's okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Join us.
You're the chair.
These are comfy.
Yeah, they are really comfy.
These ones make you fall asleep, though. I will.
If you see me in some of the council
Tell me
meetings,
about
I'm
it.
like,
yeah, once you just like it's gonna happen, you're like,
Oh, yes, approve. Quick question, so it looks like maybe there's some things on here that were on last week's warrant?
So that's another
Like the Moore Community Center
Yeah.
roof. So I know that one, we're not paying
We are
twice,
not. We
okay.
ran into an issue where check numbers were duplicating themselves, so we were putting in the correct check numbers for the check run, but there's something happened in Cassell where they were actually duplicating, where it said, oh, this check had already been processed. We didn't catch it until this week on our end, because we had checks come back that we needed to void, because they're like, this has already been paid, and we're like, well, not in our system. So when we looked at it, it was pulling up two different vendors, two different check numbers, and we're like, oh, what happened here? So we voided one check, and because that check was voided, the invoice didn't get voided with the check because we just thought it was a duplicate payment. So the actual invoice is still showing up on this week's warrant to be paid, but those were not paid out. We clicked off of them, so no checks were actually created. We're working with Cassell to fix that, and I think we have to send them more data, and they're gonna process it by 4 o'clock on Monday because they, the time difference. So they're gonna process that data 4 o'clock Monday and hopefully have a fix for us next week.
So there's some Cassell growing pains.
Correct.
yeah.
expensive growing pains at this point. Huh? You said they were coming back, but I mean, if somebody got a check and they just deposited it, and regardless of where.
Correct, and we're trying to catch it on our end. Like I said, Cassell's working on to fix that at Monday. They're gonna go back through and recreate all the data and put the correct check numbers in with the correct vendor numbers and fix that so we could see it on our accounts.
Yeah, and we'll maybe get you a project update on this. I know yesterday went in, big props to the team here when they kind of came in and I think there was a moment where I was, hey, we need to hold checks, and they were on the phone with Cassell yesterday, like literally going into the system. But it seems more administrative in terms of the double check number, that we didn't send out a bunch of double monies
Okay.
to folks. So that's the good news.
That is good news.
And the fact that they were able to get the right check numbers on the things for this week going out, that was kind of the second piece of good news, because we really would have been in a hold check situation. So I think we're good. We got to clean up the back end and do some process examination going forward to get it there. But feeling good about that process. So.
One thing I did notice, and I gave it to Nate, was that the two reports don't match. It's off by like 60,000. They said maybe it has something to do with the electronic fund, EFT, ACH
Yeah,
payments.
and when I was sitting down there, and it kind of clicked too. I also think that's because on that report, oh wait, did we double check that? The ones that we unclicked, was that on that report or no? I can't remember if we double checked that.
But I think
Because
that's a
the
lot
checks
to do
that
with
we've
ACHs.
unclicked too, could be still showing
Yeah.
on that warrant report, because that gets generated before we unclick things.
Oh, okay.
To be printed off to be paid. So that could be too, where it's accounting for the stuff that we didn't pay
Right.
on there, which may possibly be another scenario, so we can
Okay.
run that by Kay as well.
So we'll report out, I'd say, which kind of gets me to my next piece, which is establishment of a budget war room next week. I think also on this, the other person who is in the office a lot, who's in the booth right now, is Nate, who has some pretty great municipal budgeting software expertise, and it was extremely helpful on this kind of the fix yesterday and kind of how we iron it out. As I think I've said before, I think one of my big sort of orientations towards projects and problems is to mobilize, groups to solve group problems and systems to solve systems issues. So I'm really excited. And I think next week we've kind of gotten all the departmental budgets are in. The school budget's locked. We have, we have some good ideas of kind of where we're at. We're going to take, starting next week on Monday, me and the finance team are going to start meeting at 8 a.m. every morning for our initial finance committee meeting. We're hoping by Thursday of next week to sort of reestablish ourselves up in the auditorium area at the big kind of conference table for meetings. All of our desks up there, probably bringing Nate in as well, and really starting to kind of put all of the project areas that we need to kind of clean up as we go into final budget season. A big focus on the books, the budget book, and finalizing that. A big focus on Cassell, big focus on the audit and reconciliation. And I'm really excited about the project. I think we have the right team here. I know folks from the school, they have some good resources over there, and their finance director and their accountant, who I talked to a bit last week on some things, also might be bringing in some additional resources and assets with some expertise in municipal budgeting, but also project management that we can talk about further. I don't think, they're pretty low levels in terms of, I think, how they'll, but I don't think it'll exceed my budget authority, and I'll keep council advised on that. But we've got, we've got the big board out yesterday and my big project calendar, and kind of looking back from that, what is it, June 17th is sort of, I think, the natural place for the council to approve final budget. So we're working back from that. I want to have no meetings that previous week, so in case we need a meeting there, it's there, but really that June 3rd to the June 7th is sort of, that's the final time when council needs to get everything in. And we're kind of working back on a project plan every day. So you all have the information you need to pass a clean, good budget and establish a tax rate, and very, very confident in the work there. I will notice in the warrant too, one of the things with you all splitting it out, just an FYI, I saw spending about $5,000 a week on auditors right now.
I was gonna ask that, like, can we have a breakdown of how much we've spent on the auditors just last year and this year? I think it's crazy. And I know that they're doing some accounting pieces as well, like the reconciliation cleanup, but
Yep.
it'd be good to,
Yeah, we have that top line number because of the lack of reconciliation. There is a kind of a break in it, so we might have to kind of do a manual pull. I think it's like 170,000, but that's not the full due. So, and if you break out, and I've been seeing if you look in the last 6-8 weeks, we are averaging that 5,000 isn't just a one-off. That's about every week. So, you times that by years, that's about a $300,000 a year expense. So I've asked our accountant, our auditor, we're supposed to, I think as Nancy mentioned, we're supposed to have some meetings next week already scheduled, but I want a meeting really today to start talking about that, get a little bit more on kind of what the contract, what all that's for, how they do their billing. I'm assuming good faith that we have a lot of accounting and sort of these past reconciliations that we want to line up, but we're in, I think, not just in this department, but every department, in the trust but verify kind of orientation. So hope to have a lot more details on that next week. And yeah, like I said, accountant's coming in, so if council wants to sit on that meeting, that's the other piece of kind of establishment of a quorum is it's a drop by anytime situation. If you want to, you might, I warn you, you might drop by and you'll get some work as part of that drop by. I know Tammy, thank you. You've worked with Nate on dropping by next week to have some check-ins where we can give you a much more kind of dive in on the situation. Really appreciate the effort. Also appreciate that then if anything goes wrong, I'm just going to blame you going forward. So.
Broad shoulders, it's fine. Funny guy this morning, huh?
Yeah, it's Friday. I'm all,
Funny Friday.
so,
We'd get many people.
Avery Lane, Matt's over at the inspection for them right now. We're working through kind of the final paperwork on that. I've had some conversations with the seller's real estate person, our attorney. We're getting the title figured out. I don't think we're going to need title insurance because of a lack of survey needed. That's what Matt was basically implying, and the work on there is already pretty good. So, and the title search has already been done. But I've got a meeting with Redmond Winchell, our attorney, on this piece next week to kind of finalize that. Met with Bar Harbor Bank and Trust on the bridge loan. Should be good there. I've also pinged, I think, Safian on. Are we good on that piece? Does that require council approval as well? That's my other. I have a lot of Jim Safian questions right now. So, and then the inspections going forward now, which is sort of one piece of this process that hadn't been done yet. So, I'm crossing my fingers that we've already had our school facilities people, a bunch of folks. It looks like a very well kept, amazing building. But again, the trust but verify piece, we're gonna do our due diligence there. Hopefully, the inspector doesn't come back with anything. That's kind of, in my opinion, some of the last potential hurdles to this project being finalized. Also had a couple meetings with the school folks on, how they're going to kind of work into their budgets, this transfer over if we do kind of finalize, then we go to the bond bank later in the fall, and they have sort of that $100,000 line item in their school budget, plus the savings they're going to have on the lease changes, but exactly how that's going to kind of fall off, is sort of for them to kind of work out, but we're putting together a project plan on this too. Just think it's May 20th, actually, which is the council date, is our contract finalization for this project. So I think we're in good shape. I'll let you know if there's any red flags there, but any questions on that?
So the financing for that piece, is that going to be coming on May 20th as well?
I think the bridge loan, yes. And we're paying interest on through I think whenever we kind of swap it over. So, I think the next bond bank kind of piece hits in October, and that's pretty clinical. It's like, it's not a question mark if we get it. When you go in, you get it, and then it's up through December 15th, I think, the bridge loan. So if we pay early and go and switch it over to the bond bank piece, we will get some back.
So we're getting a ban?
Basically, yep.
Okay, so if we're getting a ban, that needs to be approved as well.
Okay.
So that will need to be discussed with Jim Safian as well, unless he says otherwise. But if we're borrowing any type of money,
Yep.
it needs to have approval from council and public hearings and all
That email is already into Jim.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
That's why
Just wanted to make sure.
I'm a couple on Jim. SRRF seems finalized. Seems like we've done
Yep.
all the ones on that. The Avery Lane, the bond bank, or the ban is in over to him. So
Okay.
that's my
All right.
expectation. And then now we'll add TELP.
Yeah.
And I think that's it for right now. My inclination is, we're going to need to toss on another special to one of these earlier meetings, but or maybe it's the 20th is the final signing date. Maybe we can push on that. I hate to have this close, ban, vote, all happen at the same time. I mean, it seems like council wants to approve this project, but, I'd rather have a little more time than that, so.
The special meeting right before a budget workshop on Wednesday went pretty well.
Okay.
So, as long as it's limited to these discrete financial issues,
Okay.
we need to do it. I think it worked just fine.
Yeah, I thought so as well, and I think the team, Tony's been doing a great job on, getting our ducks in a row going in there too, and kind of having what you need for background and substantiation. So hopefully we can, went pretty smoothly last Wednesday, I felt, getting things cleared in the decks, so. FEMA, MEMA is pretty straightforward, some inspectors are coming out next week to look at the cupola and see if that could potentially, the repairs or mitigations be included for some federal funding, even though there has been, damage and water leaks in that prior to the storm, but it was more on this storm, and so we're gonna, and all the teams have been working to, anything that's related to that project, we've put in front of FEMA and MEMA. We're having Thursday meetings every week with them to make sure anything and all related to the storm is not on Mr. and Mrs. Ellsworth entirely, but on Mr. and Mrs. Ellsworth, America. Just covering as much of those pieces. On the beautification side of things, Dr. Greenleaf, had kind of gave us his extended proposal to add additional pieces that we talked about that were kind of expectations for last year, but weren't in the contract, which is like the 14,000 area per year. I just got a proposal back from him for about 16,000. I'm still weighing if I want to put that out to bid. It's over my purchase authority. For the additional stuff, he's going to move forward on what was already contracted for last year and was already in the budget. And we've been very specific. Or if I want to have him take a little bit out less so we can get that in there sooner, I'm leaning towards putting those extra pieces out to bid to another vendor just to see what it's going to be. But that's kind of where I'm at on that right now. So,
I thought your purchase was 20,000.
okay, I'll double check. I thought it was 15, but
Oh, well, maybe.
let me
I
double
thought it was
check.
20 for some reason, but
That may make a little difference. I still may do another one, just for due diligence on price, and sometimes I like working with a couple vendors and, see there's a little competition out
Oh,
there.
yeah,
They're
absolutely.
working on
Yes.
similar islands. You've got these, we got that. Nate and I will go out there, decide what we, but I actually think the vendor we have is giving us a good price. I think the expectation before was, everybody else came in around $50,000 for this project, and we went with a $14,000 more like maintenance plan. I think that created a lot of confusion in the community that the person didn't do their job, when in some ways they were, clearing out a lot of sand and gravel, and, a 3-year, I think the expectation was over 3 years he'd spend $50,000, whereas everybody else was doing $50,000 to kind of do the first year. So I think we're getting a lot of value out of this vendor. So want to keep that value, and I know Jana's got like a ton of grants she's looking at in beautification, and there's a lot of other buckets. So we've, also thinking as a group, how do we kind of do maintenance and stabilize this year and do the best we can with current resources? Maybe doing a little bit like within my purchase authority and depending on the budget to produce, get surplus flowers and volunteers, and we're also, our public works guys have agreed. I was going to think about getting a stump grinder and having part of this to make the front of our place look more like that, where there's not hedges that are eating our lampposts. But Adam said, don't worry about that. He can have the guys come out here in 15 minutes and take those things out. So I've talked to, our beautification folks, and nobody that I've talked to yet has said that they want to keep those hedges and the lampposts kind of there. So we put a little more grass in there. We also had a little bit of damage from the bucket that's going to look at the top thing to the grass. So I think we're going to have to do some grassing and anyways. So let's use this opportunity to pull out those hedges, maybe paint those lamppost green so that they really shine again, get some grass plantings in there. And, with all the stuff Jana's doing in the parklet, maybe being able to have people kind of sit out here and, enjoy a community space in the summertime that's a little more welcoming and
there's some
friendly.
bistro tables out there.
Yeah, and I saw when it warmed up the libraries, they've got like 15, 20 tables. I'd love to do the same thing out here on lunch breaks and have the community have this. So, and I think with what Jana's doing, the parklet and the library there, this is such a great community space in the summertime coming up. So excited about that.
Can't find finance, we'll be outside.
That's right.
I actually have a little laptop tent that I love to work from. So maybe I'll break that out this year. I'm going to leave PUC to you, Nate. The culvert on Surrey Road, it's a little under 10,000 for that. That got somewhat damaged in the last big storms, and they need to get a bigger piece on it. So I think Adam's going to move forward on that. We're still putting that in for FEMA to see if it's there. It's some question over whether that's qualifies for their funding, but we'll do our best. And then we talked a lot about capital in the fire department and the exhaust system. I did double check. The highway garage does have an exhaust system already, and they said they don't really run their cars like the fire department does as much there. So that one seems like the big one moving forward. And talked to Michelle a bit too. And I know you see we need a little more dialed in on ARPA. What's left? How is it mixed? That we can can we have in the past use ARPA for funds like this separate from the budget cycle, and if we can work it, if there's another special meeting, if we can line it on deck so that we can kind of show some good faith to the fire department that that's a priority. Maybe we can kind of move even a little earlier on that. The gym's windows, the bottom stairs here, I know that's a big thing for me. Saw some glass broken out there when I first came here, and saw online that there's a couple RFPs on it. Jim has found a vendor for it. It's coming in about 5,000 more than we were thinking, but we've already bought all the windows, thankfully, because that price got locked in. Also, knowing Jim, he really doesn't like that it's coming in that much more, but he is like the cheapest, best carpenter / So I think the fact that he's even with a little reticence, we need to move forward. I think we need to move forward, and this will be actually cheaper money than if we wait longer to find a cheaper vendor. It'll probably end up being the opposite, that we only find more expensive vendors. So we already had that budgeted, but it's gonna come in about $5K over. Another one that I don't know if for Safian or a council update is the manhole covers and the extensions, and I know council previously approved that. That's gonna be in that 300 and some thousand category. I know I talked to Reggie. I know we have a preferred kind of vendor that gives us those at a specific price. I've asked him to get additional quotes. That seems to be more of like a retail purchase and less of a putting it out to bid. I mean, that's, so we should get quotes. We'll pick the lowest one because it's all the same things. But I didn't know if I need at that level, it seems like council's already approved moving forward with that, but do I need a specific council piece to purchase those?
Funds have already been,
Yeah, that one's a little, still a purchase. We authorized to, the only thing we did was authorize to move the money around and, correct?
Yeah, how it's going to be funded
So,
through what
right,
mechanism? Like, I
but
remember there
I
was
do feel like it might need council.
Council, so
That's
what's-
what, like, my first instinct is, yes, it would need.
Yeah, and especially if it seems like we're going to be thrown into one of these. Let me talk to Reggie.
But does it fall
sorry,
under the
Mike.
contract of the state? So do we just, so I don't know if it's their contract?
I don't know. It's their I mean, it's
Are we paying directly, or is
we're paying not the state directly. No, I think we're having to gather the quotes and the bids and the people and pay for
Okay,
those
so
ourselves.
then, yeah, I do think that it needs to come to council.
Okay. But if we get that other,
whatever you say.
we already did
It's been a
EMC.
while. I'm like 4 years out, so
Just like right
I
now.
can't remember. 5 years out, I can't remember.
I'll touch base with Mike and Adam on that piece, and we either come back or we'll figure something out. Send it over to Nate.
Part 2 of our agenda here, the water PUC report, which we have until May 1st to complete. This is obviously my first one I've done, so right down
That's
to the wire.
quick.
Yeah, right down to the wire, which is why I contacted Tammy yesterday, and I actually have a phone call, Teams call with Ron and Kevin, our auditors. They're going to help because obviously a lot of those pieces I think are going to come from the 23 audit, which obviously we don't have, but I think the water portion, it sounds like we can, Ron feels good about that. So like I said, I have that set up for today. We have the recreation budget scheduled for Monday night. I have all the paperwork ready. So I'm going to scan that to the council today for Monday's meeting. working on getting the budget book cleaned up. We talked with Charlie, obviously this week, and the goal is to make it look like 2019. I can't remember who the finance director was in 2019, but she did a great job with the book. I think it was Tammy.
No, actually, I wasn't the finance director,
Oh, you
but
weren't?
I was still in charge of the budget, so.
I
Well,
looked
the
at a
book
few.
looks nice, so.
It looks nice, and I looked at like a few more. Like that seemed to be the standard for
Yeah.
3 or 4 years prior.
So that's
too.
gonna be
I
our-
loved it.
that's gonna be our
Like,
gold
that's my
standard.
thing. I love it.
So, yeah, our goal is to get that done. Hopefully, next week we'll get that working and get that done. And then we have the auditor, auditor coming, I believe, next week. I think it's Thursday and Friday, I'm not sure. But he's supposed to be coming into town. And I think Charlie, like you mentioned before, is, we're gonna speak to him before that. Just so we get some clarification on when the audit will be done and how we can help to get this thing going quicker. And the last note there was just that Charlie and I met, and obviously our goal, like he said, is to work on getting the finance team all working together and accomplishing goals as quick as we can. And that's about all I got for this week.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I'm looking forward to see this war room.
Yeah, and if you've never, thank you to Deb and to Ashley and Nate and another Nate. If you've never done Scrum, Agile project management, or these types of things, it's kind of a fun skill to learn and to be a part of. I think it kind of helps break government inertia on projects like this. Really can mobilize groups. So and Nate actually was in there. We were talking about this yesterday, and it was just sort of, it also helps, I think, build institutional knowledge across areas. We're going to be bringing in department directors, and my sense is that people really want to, like, whatever, all hands on deck. Let's help out with the problem, and we hopefully can get to the point with this, or if somebody comes in and asks a question, I could give you a briefing on it, or Deb could give you a briefing on it, or or Adam in the highway department should be able to give you a briefing on it with how things are going and the SOPs for accounts payable. And I think it's multi-step project on the budget is sort of our North Star on this piece, but also real accountability on on the audit, the reconciliation, the Cassell project with Nate, and kind of, hey, where are we at? We've heard a lot of stories on Cassell and the implementation. And I think we still have some due diligence to make sure that we've done everything, but as I said in a previous one of these, I've said goodbye to vendors that aren't working out before, and Munis is still, we are paying for that license, we have it there. I don't think we're at that point of that, but that's one of the things Nate's going to be thinking about. And I said my dream is eventually to start building budgets within the softwares, and then also doesn't just do budget and then July 1st we come back to look at this in January. We got every single month, where are we at departmentally. So that these finance committee meetings too can be a little more in the weeds. A lot of other things on how we kind of spend. I know in previous years, the fiscal year starts, you buy all your goodies, and how we can maybe kind of space that out. The timing of tranches leaving, the tranches of money coming in, how the state stuff works. Super pumped to start getting that all on the board and have a better understanding here. So, yeah.
That's all I got.
Thanks for all the hard work, guys, and
Yeah.
anticipation of all
Yeah,
the hard work.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait for I think 5 o'clock on Thursday. It's
Yeah.
Tammy time.
5 o'clock, it's Kim time.
I was about to say, keep your phone on, Tammy.
Yeah. And I can come in like one day during the week, like
Yeah.
during my lunch break or something, and you and I
Okay.
can give you some guidance on some stuff too. Where to find all of my old documents, and there's a ton of information, 20 years worth of files that I think would prove to be super helpful.
Great.
So.
Great. Awesome. I'm off to leadership meeting, but I'd love to talk to you too, just for a quick
Yeah,
second, if you
absolutely.
guys-
Thanks,
All right,
guys.
thank
you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
I'll be in to see you in just a minute too,
Okay,
so I can give you a little bit of
I'll
guidance.
take
Okay.
this one.
All right, we got it.
Not a lot, but
Yeah.
Thanks for breaking that out. That was
Thank you.
really helpful.